All right, let's jump right in. We see flowers all the time, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about them as more than just, well, pretty things? What if I told you each one is one of nature's most sophisticated and beautiful machines? Today, we're going to peel back the petals and reveal the incredible engineering blueprint hidden inside every single flower. Because that's literally what a flower is. It is not just for show. Every single color, every curve, every part has a very specific job. This is a high-tech factory, a biological marvel designed for one ultimate purpose: making more life. So, botanically speaking, what even is a flower? Well, it's not some totally separate thing on a plant. It's what we call a modified shoot. Basically, imagine a normal stem that decided to stop growing up and instead packed all its future leaves into this super compact, specialized unit. That stubby little stem it sits on, that's called the thalamus, and it's the launch pad for everything we're about to see. And this whole structure is brilliantly organized. It's laid out in 4 concentric layers, or whorls, kind of like Russian nesting dolls. We're going to take a tour through them, from the outside in. We'll start with the calyx, move to the corolla, then the androecium, and end up right in the heart of it all, the gynoecium. Okay, first up are the 2 outermost layers. These are called the accessory whorls, and a simple way to think of them is as the flower's packaging and its advertising. They aren't directly making babies, so to speak, but trust me, without them, the whole operation would totally fail. So the first line of defense, the outermost layer, is the calyx. This is made up of these little leaf-like things called sepals. Before a flower even opens, when it's just a bud, the sepals are wrapped tightly around it. They're basically the flower's bodyguard, protecting all the delicate, important parts inside from bad weather or a hungry bug. And you can see them perfectly right here at the base. They're almost always green and kind of tough. Once the flower blooms, their main job is done, but they hang around, offering a little bit of support. Okay, moving one layer in, we get to the corolla, and that's just the fancy name for all the petals put together. Now this is the flower's advertising department. The bright colors, the wild patterns, the amazing smells, it's all designed to scream, hey, bees, butterflies, over here, I've got the good stuff. And looking at our blue point again, you can see the petals are tucked just inside those sepals we were talking about. This is the big, flashy display we all love, but it's all business. It's about attracting the perfect delivery service to come pick up your pollen. So to sum it up, it's a perfect division of labor. You've got the calyx, the sepals, handling security, so they're tough and green. Then you've got the corolla, the petals, handling marketing, so they're flashy and colorful. 2 different jobs, 2 different designs, working together seamlessly. All right, we've made it past the packaging and the billboards. Now we get to the main event, the essential whorls. These are the parts that actually do the heavy lifting of reproduction. And we're going to start with the male components, the pollen factory. This third whorl has a fancy name, the androgeum. That's just the technical term for the male part of the flower. And it's made up of these individual units called stamens. You often see them as those thin, stocky things poking up around the flower center. And each one of these stamens is a cool little 2-part gadget. You've got the long stalk, which is called the filament, and then sitting right on top is the anther. And that's the important bit. That's where all the pollen is actually made. Here's an easy way to think about it. The anther is the factory, just churning out thousands, sometimes millions of pollen grains. And the filament? That's the crane arm, holding that factory up high and putting it in the perfect spot for a passing bee to brush up against and get covered in that precious golden dust. So the flower has successfully made its pollen. It's presented it to the world. But that's only half the battle, right? Where is all that pollen supposed to go? What's the target here? And that question takes us right to the center of the flower, to the 4th and final whorl. This is the female reproductive structure. It's designed not just to catch the pollen, but to be the cradle for the next generation. It's called the gynoecium, though you might also know it as the pistil. This is the bullseye. It's the ultimate destination for the pollen, and it's built from 1 or more special, modified leaves called carpels that are all fused together to create this amazing central structure. Now, the gynoecium itself has 3 distinct parts that map out the pollen's final epic journey. Step 1, it has to stick the landing on the stigma, which is the specialized, often sticky pad at the very top. Step 2, it grows a tiny tube all the way down through the connecting stalk called the style. And finally, step 3, it reaches the swollen base, the ovary. And inside there is the real prize, the ovules. Once they're fertilized, they'll become the seeds. But this brings up another fascinating design question. I mean, it's not enough to just have ovules inside the ovary. How are they arranged? Are they just rattling around in there? No way. Nature's way more organized than that. The specific arrangement of ovules has a name. It's called placentation. And yes, you heard that right, placenta, just like in mammals. It's this special cushion of tissue that connects the ovules to the ovary wall, feeding them and holding them in place. And what's so cool is that there isn't just one way to do it. Nature came up with all these different blueprints. Some plants, like a pea pod, line up their ovules right along the edge. That's marginal. Others, like a cucumber, attach them to the outer walls, which is called parietal. And then you have things like a tomato or an orange, with chambers radiating from the center. That's axial placentation. It's a different engineering solution for every plant. So let's just zoom out and bring this all back together. We've journeyed through all four worlds, from the outer guards right to the very core where a new life is conceived. What we've uncovered is a complete, totally integrated blueprint for life. When you look at the whole flower one last time, you can see how it all clicks into place. Every part has a purpose. The outer accessory whorls, the calyx and corolla, they handle the security and the marketing. The inner essential whorls, the androecium and gynoecium, they're the manufacturing and receiving departments. It's a perfect system. You know, this brings us right back to that very first definition we saw from our source material. A flower is a highly condensed and modified shoot meant for reproduction. Now that we've seen how all the pieces work together, that simple sentence just means so much more, doesn't it? So the next time you see a flower, look closer. Because you're not just looking at something pretty. You're looking at a masterpiece of biological engineering. And that leaves us with this final amazing question. If this is the basic blueprint, how has nature endlessly remixed it? Fusing parts, shrinking others, changing colors, to create the absolutely mind-boggling diversity of flowers we see all over the world. The possibilities, it seems, are truly infinite.